Talk to me about what happens to women when they come off their pill and the attraction to their partner.
Yeah, so it's such a powerful study that made the news about a couple of years ago, and then it went away. And I'm like, wait a second, can we bring this back? Because this
Let's bring it back now.
Yeah.
Let's bring this back.
Yes, we can. You and I on our platforms together, we can do this. So here's what happens is when you're on the pill, it takes you out of your natural rhythm, but it also takes you out of so many intuitive senses that you are equipped with. And one of them is that we are attracted to our mates based off of things like smell. Mm-hmm. And in that smell, the attraction that we have to our mate is because they have a smell that supports our immune system. So think about that in a moment. Why would we need a smell that is going to support our immune system? Because the female body is meant to reproduce. And as much as if you're like a woman who's not having kids and you're like, want to push that away, I hear that. But what it does is that when we're pregnant, our immune system goes down because we have foreign DNA in us. We have our husband's DNA in us. So we need our immune system to be a little suppressed, and we need a good balance of our immune system. So when we seek out a mate, we seek out the mate that's the best immune system match to us, and that is done through smell. When you are on the birth control pill, that changes. That's what this study showed, is that your ability to, your attraction to your mate that might have not been through smell, you get off the period, your pill, and now you're literally smelling your mate differently, and you are either going to be maybe more attracted or less attracted. But what this study showed is that a lot of women had marital problems when they got off the pill because that attraction changed, and it was all through smell.
Oh my God, they got the ick.
Right? Crazy, right?
I'm like, they got the ick. That's nuts. Okay,
Yeah.
anyone listening to this on the contraceptive pill, be very aware when you come off it.
Right.
You might not fancy your partner.
Yeah. And just be aware. I mean, this doesn't mean like, oh my God, I thought I was in love with my husband, but maybe I'm not. This is more awareness. Everything in this conversation has been about awareness. Yeah. And because there is so much guilt, shame, and frustration for women, especially right now. And it's all because we're not having conversations like this. So you just be aware of it. And then I'm going to even go one step further and go, okay, it's time for us to find a male contraception. Like, yes, we've got condoms, but there's some research that's actually being done now on why can't men take a pill that would suppress sperm production? And there's a lot of research being done on that right now. The fact that we only have contraceptive options for women outside the condom is sad. And that has to change because it's just manipulating our whole hormonal system.
100%. It's something I think has been in my mind since I first went on the pill. It just feels like a very unfair choice, right? It's not a choice. You're forced onto it, really, because it's the only thing that you know that's going to stop you getting pregnant. And when you're 16, it's the safest option. That's what you're told. Just thinking about this as a concept. Imagine if women never needed to go on the pill again. I wonder how more in tune with our bodies we would be. It just isn't such a familiar concept. And I know it's different for you, and you grew up in a household where your mother was actually, adamant for you to not go on the pill. Yeah. But I grew up with a mother who worked in sexual health, who was adamant for me to go on the pill, right? Because she saw all the problems with people that didn't go on the pill. Yeah. And so we kind of live in this, kind of shaken world within that sector, I think. Yeah. Whereas I look at it very differently now.
Yeah. So I have a 23-year-old daughter, and it was tough to decide what path we were going birth control with her. And I can tell you, when I put my mama hat on, like your mom, it's like, okay, whatever's going to make it so that you don't get pregnant, let's do that.
I'm not going to be a grandma yet.
That's right. Like, let's just make sure that, because that sounds like the worst option. But we did go through all the different options and really look at the possibilities. And that is where are together, she made the decision, but it was to go into the IUD. But the IUD still has some challenges with it. It's still, affecting and manipulating a cycle. So it's a tough conversation, but it's one we need to all be aware of. And when you get off the birth control pill is the hardest one, because it's going to take you, like you said, it took you about 9 months to find your cycle. Yeah. So it's just going to take time. So be patient with yourself. And awareness is the beginning of the healing journey. If we're not aware, we can't heal. So take this not as a shame or, oh God, I should have done it differently. Let's take this as, oh my gosh, this is an opportunity for us to be more aware so we can talk to others with a different language.
That leads me on to something that I do really want to make sure we touch upon in today's episode, which is mental health, right? Yeah. Because that's something that I'm so passionate about, that I've driven so much within my career on mental health. And I do believe that, yes, we've started the conversation so much more on this, but not around women. Can we talk about this in the role to mental health? Because I know that glutamate, which you've mentioned to me previously, which is one of the most abundant neurotransmitters within our brain, works in conjunction. So can you talk about how this plays a part within our cycle for people that are below 40 and then also perimenopausal, menopausal? Because again, not just talking about women in one box, talking about women in 3 different phases of their life, because again, they all change. So I'd love to talk around this concept, because I think it's something that many people might not have heard of.
Yeah, thank you. This is the whole, basis of my next book. So I'm really excited to talk about it. Like to your point, the first thing I want people to know is that hormones are precursors for neurotransmitters. So estrogen goes into a serotonin receptor site and can activate serotonin. Same thing with dopamine. So when estrogen is on the scene, you're going to have access to more dopamine and serotonin.
And so people know that's our happy and feel good hormones, right? That's the ones that make us feel great.
Makes us feel great, makes us motivated. This is why we tend to feel so good in the front half of our cycle. And to my perimenopausal and menopausal women, this is why when estrogen goes away, depression is very, very common to start to be your normal mental state, which is really, really sad. And that's, again, what my next mission is, to help the perimenopausal and menopausal women. So that's the connection with estrogen. Progesterone stimulates GABA. So
that's our relaxing hormone. That's one that makes us feel calm, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's what gives us, lets us chill out, lets us calm our stuff down. I think of dopamine and serotonin as the gas pedal neurotransmitters, and GABA's the brake. So that's why it fits in so well with that part of the cycle. So you want to understand why you feel like slowing down at the back half of your cycle. And you're not going crazy if you don't want to do something, because you have progesterone and you have GABA. And in the front half of the cycle, you're going to feel happier because you've got serotonin and dopamine that are being triggered by estrogen. The glutamate issue is fascinating, because the study that you and I talked about earlier this week showed that on day 7, day 12, and day 21 of a woman's cycle, as estrogen is going to have some moments of peaking, the first 2, progesterone and the other one, both of those hormones are going to affect glutamate. And if you don't have the precursors, this gets really complicated, but if you don't have things like amino acids and vitamins and minerals to help balance glutamate, what can happen on those days is the peak of these hormones can cause glutamate to go low. And when glutamate goes low, anxiety ensues. So the woman who is like, I hate ovulation, I don't know what you're talking about, that's my superpower. My wisdom to you is that, you got to help balance glutamate. Get to understand some of the amino acid precursors, like tyrosine, and 5-HTP is a big one that we can bring in to help balance glutamate out, because it's that peak that just threw glutamate off. Or for the woman who's so massively anxious on day 21 of her cycle. okay, well, we got to look again. Let's bring those amino acids in at that time to support glutamate. But then we also need to look at GABA. Maybe you need to do more GABA producing activities like 4-7-8 breathing and things that will help to balance that. So the next level of the conversation that you and I had today, and I know if you're like, oh my God, I'm so confused. I hope that isn't the case. But I want you to look at the neurochemical system in totality. It is hormones and neurotransmitters intersect. And so that is another reason you have these ebbs and flows of your moods throughout your cycle. And to my women over 40, this is why when you lose your sex hormones, mental health becomes a major issue.
I honestly believe just knowing that is a case, right? Just knowing that, well, why am I feeling low if I'm perimenopausal? What's going on? Beating yourself up. Oh, it's because I'm going through the menopause. Something's wrong with me. But actually knowing that there's something chemically going on, it's so important. And there's things you can do. Like, you think about MSG, as you mentioned, right? That's so high in Chinese foods, but also how many processed foods are we eating?
That's right.
How many, all of these concepts, right, play a huge part in disrupting these levels. So if you're having high amounts of Chinese takeaway, then maybe don't do it. You know, those are the things that's going to push that through the top, break that glass ceiling and just go, that's it, I've gone. And anxiety rises. So how can someone tangibly look at their foods to see how can they make sure that they're balancing this a bit more correctly, apart from eating just kind of like the whole foods and reducing the processed foods? That's like kind of my number one thing that's coming into my brain.
Well, you said it. We got to get rid of the processed foods. So we got to get rid of the bad oils, the canola oil, the cottonseed, the corn. All of that is just making our cells not receptive even to the food we're eating. We got to get off the antibiotic-rich meat. I'm a fan of meat, but it needs to be clean meat. So we got to get off those chemicals that destroy the food chemicals that destroy the microbiome. And then anything toxic, like any synthetic ingredient like NutraSweet. I can't tell you how many questions I've answered from women. They're like, can I have Diet Coke when I fast? And I'm like, no, you actually can't have Diet Coke ever. Like never. Like that's not working for you. So we got to get out of the Western diet. Has really depleted our ability to even absorb the nutrients and amino acids from our diet. Now, outside of that, and this hopefully will come across with more simplicity, is when we look at amino acids. Unfortunately, if you're a vegan, you're going to probably need to supplement a bit with some amino acids because a meat has the complete array of aminos. Like grass-fed beef has every essential and non-essential amino acid that you need. So we need to look at protein differently. We need to look at meat differently. Eggs have choline in them, which is so imperative for many of these neurotransmitters. We need to go into these times of carbs because carbs are going to help to bring up serotonin. So we can really look at food as medicine from that perspective. But then the other place I want to add in a great sort of takeaway for everybody is stop eating the same foods over and over and over again. You have over 7,000 different types of microbes in your gut. And if you eat the same 50 foods over and over and over again, you're creating a monoculture. So what I do is I try, when I go out to a restaurant, the first thing I look at on the menu is what don't I eat at home? And that I pick that. And
I love that.
When I do the same meal over and over again, I'm like, what am I doing? I'm try to push myself out of my food comfort zone and open up diversity because that's how my microbiome will become the most diverse.
I think, honestly, the diverse, richer foods is so fundamentally important. And I try to say to all of my patients when they come in, I say, if you can do one thing this week, just one change, when you go to the supermarket, just this one time in the whole week, pick up a new vegetable or a new fruit or a new whole grain or a new legume that you've never tried before, or even a herb. Pick up a new food that you've never tried before and just try cooking with it. Amazing. And if you do that slowly, every week, over 52 weeks, you've got 52 new foods in your diet. And it feels less overwhelming,
Yeah.
Just to do that small thing. And I love what you're doing when you go into a restaurant. What have I not tried? You haven't even got to cook it.
Right. No, it's the most, I literally picked the most obscure thing. So, how do we choose food? We choose it off our taste buds. What am I in the mood for? Okay, let's reframe that. How about we say, what do my hormones need today? What does my microbiome need that I haven't given it yet? And then what do my taste buds want? Let's make it the third thing, not the first thing. And then you will start to see that everything in your body improves. So we can use food as medicine if we use it from that angle. So when we look at the mental health issue, if you're like, oh my God, I'm so now I've got to think about my neurotransmitters along with my hormones, it can be as simple as that. Just feed your microbiome, open up the diversity of food, understand the hormonal profile, and you can't go wrong.
I love those 3 simple concepts. Everyone will be writing them down right now. And they're 3 things that we can just ask ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Talk out loud.
Yeah.
I know you do. I know I do. I find it really helpful. I talk to my dog. I ask him what he thinks I should be doing. But I do think even saying it out loud can have such more of a powerful concept, right? You kind of hold yourself more accountable in that moment.
Yeah, or talk to other women too. When I was at a retreat and I ran into a plant-based chef. She was the head chef for the Four Seasons in Santa Barbara. And I looked at the table of food that she was serving us, and I was like, do you know what hormone feasting foods are? These are hormone feasting foods. And she's like, no, explain this to me. So we started to geek out. I taught her hormones and how it relates to food. Now she's going to go bring that to a major hotel like the Four Seasons. So
amazing.
We have to talk about it. That's a general theme of everything today. Share this podcast out. Open this conversation up. You and I are just here to crack that conversation open, but it is every woman's responsibility now to step into that and just start talking about it. And then the answers over the next several years will get clearer and clearer and more simple for us to use.
Okay, where are my gals that are struggling with hormonal imbalance? Bloated, feeling like you're not making progress with weight loss? You need to add these foods in so that you can support better hormonal health. There is a lifestyle that estrogen wants you to live, and there is a lifestyle that progesterone wants you to live.